Now, one of the main objectives of Sustainable Development Goals is to have cities that offer opportunities for all, including access to basic services, energy, housing and transport. As the world prepares to celebrate the World Cities Day, we look at some African cities like Nairobi, Johannesburg and Lagos that are on the move towards sustainable development. CGTN's Daniel Arap Moy, Deji Bademosi and Yolisa Njamela compiled this report.
One of the most fascinating cities in Africa is Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. Nairobi was founded in 1899 and is today the economic and political capital of Kenya and a thriving cultural hub. The city was established by the colonial authorities in British East Africa as a rail depot on the Uganda Railway. The capital city Nairobi has always been referred to as the Green City in the Sun. The name Nairobi comes from the Maasai phrase Enkare Nairobi, meaning cool water. From the onset, Nairobi established itself as a city with a vast network of green and public spaces. It's also the only city in the world with a national park in the middle. A lot goes on in Nairobi, from culture, entertainment to business. The city is rich in historical structures like the Kenyatta International Conference Center, built in the traditional shape of an African heart. It's a major attraction worthy of mention, particularly to locals who see it as a symbol of national pride. Nairobi is a city that's rapidly growing with a unique identity rooted in its public transport sector. Movement from one part of the city to another is facilitated by many buses, popularly known as matatus. One cannot talk about Nairobi without making mention of the Nairobi Expressway, a game-changing infrastructure development that has transformed the face of the city. The 27-kilometer-long elevated expressway has eased the transport from the capital to the country's biggest airport, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It has also reduced traffic congestion in the city. For many tourists, Kenya's capital city is the gateway into a country that boasts of a variety of wildlife and which has some of the best parks in the world, such as the Masai Mara. From the Kenyan capital Nairobi, let's head to Nigeria's Lagos, where Deji Bademosi tells us more about the city.
For many, there are different things that make Lagos tick, but for me, it is the opportunities that it offers, and it is mainly the reason why many Nigerians are drawn to this city of over 20 million people. Now, you often hear Americans talk about the American dream. Well, in Nigeria, there is what is called the Lagos dream, and it's beautiful as well. Many Nigerians have had their lives completely turned around for the better in this city, and the story never ends. And one unique feature of this city would be the yellow commuter buses. We call them Damfo buses here. They are quite ubiquitous, and without these buses, it'll be practically impossible for many to commute around the city. But then the drivers could be nasty sometimes. Anyway, we manage them. So what's the biggest challenge facing the city? I will say it is population management. The city's infrastructure is struggling to cope with its rising population. This is a city that is just over 1,000 square kilometers in size, the smallest land size in the country. So picture over 20 million people now trying to eke out a livelihood in that small land size. And then you'll understand why Lagos could sometimes be very chaotic.
Another thriving and iconic city in Africa is Johannesburg. Yolisa Njamela is well versed with one particular street famous for having 2 Nobel Prize-winning residents.
Johannesburg, also known as Jozi or Joburg, is one of the biggest, most developed and buzzing cities on the African continent. Joburg attracts a lot of tourists from around the world. It is South Africa's largest city and a cultural hub. From food, the wildlife, the arts and culture, there's a plenty and a variety of unique things to do here in Johannesburg for locals and visitors. The largest stadium in Africa is found in Johannesburg. The FNB Stadium has an over 94,000 capacity and 195 executive suites. The 2010 World Cup finals were held here at this stadium. Johannesburg is also home to the world's third largest hospital, the Chris Baragwanath Academic Hospital, located here in Soweto. It has over 3,200 beds and employs about 7,000 staff members. Facilities house about 429 buildings. Vilakazi Street is famous for having 2 Nobel laureate winning residents. Former President Nelson Mandela and former Anglican Church Archbishop Desmond Tutu lived here. It's a vibrant street that is full of restaurants and attracts a lot of tourists. The biggest challenge facing South Africa's richest city, Johannesburg, currently is water shortages. The crisis has led to people living without water for over a month. Many people have had to resort to extreme measures in a bid to survive. The government has, however, moved to make assurances that they're dealing with the matter as a matter of urgency. Yoli Sanjamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.